evening, everyone. I would like to go ahead and call the Committee of the Whole to order. We just have one item on our agenda tonight, and that is regarding the Bezos Academy. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and turn it straight over to Mary Jane.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Council members. I'm here tonight to introduce the Bezos Academy. I'm Mary Jane Van Cleve. I'm Communications and Engagement Director. Through to my previous position as the Recreation Director, I had the pleasure to work with the Bezos Academy and assisting them as they navigate through our city process and procedures in terms of leasing one of our spaces and activating it. So they're here today to introduce themselves, their experience up to this point, as well as answer any questions. We also have several staff members on this call as well, in case you have any questions about our normal process that they've gone through if they are unable to answer. But basically, I will now hand this over to Judith for a brief moment. She's going to share the video that was included in your agenda packet, and this is for folks who have not had a chance to view it. We will watch that, and then we'll hand it over to Emmanuel and Scott for further discussion. Thank you.
Every single thing we do begins and ends with the child and the needs of the child. If we serve the family, it's because we're serving the child. Bezos Academy is a nonprofit, tuition-free, Montessori-inspired preschool network. We believe that every child deserves the advantages that an excellent preschool provides. Unfortunately, only half of the children in the United States are in a preschool. And the reason for that is, one, just accessibility. There aren't enough seats. Secondly, and as importantly, it's just too expensive. It's not affordable for most families. And that's the space that we want to address.
Every single child is worthy and is absolutely capable and deserves a high-quality education.
Providing early childhood education, it's a public good. It's like infrastructure. So when you think of roads and bridges, they help build communities and they help communities thrive. And that's exactly what early childhood education does.
What we know now is that who we are and our potential is dramatically impacted by what happens from birth to about 5 or 6 years old. That's why it's so important that we invest in preschool education.
When she comes home, Aaliyah is so excited to tell me about her day. She asks me questions that she learned in school. They really rely on independent work, which is great.
The children get to explore the environment and find what is interesting to them.
It's about removing the obstacles so they can get to what they need to do so that they can have that self-actualization and growth.
Not only do we build a love of learning, but we also set them up for success in the future.
What does it take to build an academy from start to finish, especially during a pandemic? We come into a community that needs a preschool. We seek out a partner who also understands the importance of high-quality preschool, and their contribution is a facility. And then we come into that facility and we perform all of the leasehold improvements that will create a beautiful, safe environment for the children. And we launch the school together.
The partnership between Wesley and Bezos Academy has been one that has been very inspirational for, I think, both parties.
Well, hello. I'm Shirley Tollison. I'm a resident at Wesley Gardens in Des Moines, Washington. It's a joy to see the children on our campus. I feel that it's a very worthwhile cause.
This is a tremendous program, and we just want to support it in any way we can.
Big things start small. Our first school is a single classroom with a maximum of 20 students. We see having hundreds of Bezos Academies across the country. And when I think about that, I think about the children. And over time, we'll affect them in a positive way and probably anyone that they touch in their lives.
It's about time that every child and family in this country is deemed worthy and given the opportunity to experience a loving, welcoming environment that is just for them.
Thank you, Judith. So, council members, the building that the Bezos Academy is occupying is our North Highlands Center, neighborhood center that's up by Meadowcrest playground that's extremely popular. And so they're here now to introduce themselves and answer any questions you may have. I'll introduce Mr. Emmanuel Ima. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Jane, and thank you, Council President and Council members. Really a pleasure for me to be here. My name is Emmanuel Ima, and I have the responsibility of managing our partnership. So the partnership between Bezos Academy and the city of Renton, as well as other partnerships with different organizations and bodies in the state of Washington. Here on the call with me, I have our head of partnership, who actually was very instrumental and walked all the way in terms of everything that resulted in this partnership. Scott Edison is here. He will share. Maybe Scott, you want to introduce yourself and then.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great to be with everybody tonight. My name is Scott Edison, and as Emmanuel said, I'm responsible for partnerships. And partners in partnership is a critical piece to our model. We are, as the video stated, a nonprofit. All of our schools are tuition free, and so we don't. There's no concept of revenue in our organization, only expense. And the way that we're able to make Mr. Bezos' dollars stretch is to find partners in communities, underserved communities that are aligned with our mission and have space we can use to build out our schools. And then we take it from there. And we'd love to share details about our model tonight if you're interested, and answer any questions you may have about our plans broadly or specific to Renton. So great to meet all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And also on the call tonight is Mary Beth Caruso. She will introduce herself much later. I'll give her a longer period of time to talk about herself. She will be our face and everything in the city of Renton as she manages the school. So I'll give her some minutes as I move ahead. But I just wanted to explain to the council, I mean, this is a real pleasure to be before you, just to pick up the baton to say thank you so much. Because all of you as a team, when at Bezos Academy, just to give you some background, we prioritize communities where the census and other data indicate that there is a need for more affordable preschools. So the city of Renton was on our radar from the start in 2020 when we dug into this data. We recognize that, of course, there are great schools, there are great programs in the city, but obviously there is a clear gap between the raw number of low-income preschool children living in Renton and the number of seats that are available in the existing programs that you have in the city. So we took extensive steps. We talked with community organizations, and that included, Renton Technical College, Renton Housing Authority, the Innovation Zone, various schools, and of course, the city itself. So I am really delighted to come in here, appear before you to say thank you, because when we located a suitable place, that space that Mary Jane talked about at North Highlands Neighborhood Center, you as a council approved a 15-year partnership between Bezos Academy and the city of Renton. And this is a clear indication of the step you want to take as representatives of the people to increase access to tuition-free quality preschool for children in Renton. Your action, your steps, your approval of this partnership is a clear indication of the work that you are investing in the children, in families in the city. Now, a lot of folks in conversations I've been having keep asking me, what actually makes your program different? What makes it work? I want to also keep explaining it to everyone that our preschools offer year-round programming, 5 days a week, for children ages 3 to 5 years old. our belief is that this schedule is not only beneficial for the children's learning and growth, but it also makes it easier for the adults, the parents, who need to pursue economic activities outside the home. So the idea is that when the children in Renton come to this school, their parents, the adults who ordinarily will be taking care of them back home, will have the opportunity to pursue economic activities, go out there, get a job, and of course, boost the economy of the city. So our academic day runs from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with extended learning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. That means parents can drop off the children at 8 a.m. in our schools, and then we also have extended programming from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. So they drop them off at 9, pick them up at 3:30. For our program, we seek out the best educators and we provide competitive pay and benefits. We are very, very committed to ensuring that every one of our schools exists as a part of the community, not outside of it. This means that the value that we bring is both long-term and community-focused. For instance, we prioritize hiring and training teachers from the community. I know that Mary Beth will talk a little bit about this when she's going to, introduce herself. And our goal is to hire and to train teachers who reflect the students and families that we serve. So we are at this point really digging in, looking to recruit teachers and assistant teachers from the city of Renton. We are also going to be working with the parents when our school is up and running to promote their involvement in their children's education. And our commitment is also to work with you, the city, as our partner, to leverage our resources and yours as well in ways that will enhance both our program and the community at large. I have the pleasure of introducing Mary Beth at this time so that she could share a little bit about herself.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I'm so glad to be here and meet all of you tonight. My name is Mary Beth Caruso. I'm an educator, a longtime early childhood educator. I worked in Montessori schools for many years, as well as learning other techniques from other early childhood programs as well. I have also been an administrator, so both teaching and administrative experience I have. But it's really working with the children in the classrooms that is my first passion, and I just feel that that is my calling. So here I am. I've joined Bezos Academy really because of the mission that they bring to help bring quality early childhood education into underserved communities. And so I'm really honored to be doing that with Bezos Academy and being here tonight. I just would like to say that I'd like to work with all of you on bringing everyone together, children, families, staff, to create an inclusive learning environment at Bezos Academy in North Highlands, Renton, North Highlands. Manuel spoke about how we can hire local folks, and I really want to encourage you, if you know of anyone who's interested in teaching or has a teaching background, who's local, to apply. We have information on the website, the Bezos Academy website. We are now in the process of hiring lead teachers. This is the first step for filling our team. So we do want someone who has some experience with early childhood as a teacher, and we will offer some Montessori training as well, which is free of charge. So it's a wonderful benefit for people who want to get into early childhood and get training. We'll also be hiring assistant teachers in the early summer, and that will be posted at that time, probably in June. That will be posted on the website as well. So I encourage you to refer anyone you know who's interested in teaching at our school. And also, we're looking for families. We want to get the word out to the local families that the school will be coming up. We're hoping to open this fall. This is the goal is fall opening, and we have a process ahead of us to get there, but that is the plan. So if you're hearing people in town talk about it, send them our way. We'd love to have them. We will be having a lottery for the seats, and that will be happening. Usually it happens the end of summer, early fall. So again, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm able to answer questions if you have any.
Mary Beth, maybe it would be worthwhile describing how our admissions and eligibility requirements work.
Okay, so we take children who are or at the poverty level, but we also fill the gap between what Head Start offers, which is lower poverty level, but we also understand there are families that make more than poverty level that cannot afford preschool, and preschool is quite expensive, especially a high quality preschool experience. So I don't want to give you the exact, it is on our website, but I believe it's 400% of the federal poverty level.
And Mary Beth, let me add for a second. Council, you should know, Bezos spent extensive amount of time working with the Renton School District and other community providers to not compete, but to complement. And one of the requests from the school district was, we're unable to serve the families that are above that poverty threshold or their income requirements. And so it was, how do we serve those families? Mark Santos Johnson, I have to give him credit. He helped facilitate extensive amount of conversations during 2020. And Scott was a part of those. So everything has been pretty intentional on their part. Renton really rang them through to really make sure this was a complement to our community and the right fit. So thank you, Mary Beth, but it will be a lottery, and hopefully we can share more information, but it was intentional as to not compete with existing programs, but to complement and capture families who just weren't benefiting from some of the existing programs.
Right.
Maybe I can fill in the gaps on eligibility and enrollment, just because I think this is a critical point in understanding how we dovetail with existing programs like Head Start. When we open up our admissions, we accept applications from families earning up to 400% of the federal poverty level. And just to give you a flavor for what that means, that's about $106,000 a year for a family of four. Now, we collect all of the applications, and when the admissions period closes, we go through the applications. Any children living or experiencing homelessness are admitted first. And then we go through and look for any children in foster care. They're admitted next. With the seats that are left, half of them are reserved for families earning up to 250% of the federal poverty level, about $65,000 a year for a family of four. And then once those are filled, we have a lottery for the remaining seats, and that would be any applicant up to 400%. And really, as Mary Jane said, we are looking to complement existing programs, and we know that for families living in King County, just because you're making 250%, 300%, even 400% of the FPL, that does not mean that you can afford to have a decent roof over your head, put food on the table, and pay for full day year-round daycare or certainly Montessori preschool. And so our intention is to serve a broad swath of families in the Puget Sound region. I thought it was important just to kind of level set how we're approaching this and who we hope to serve.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, and also to add some, listening to what Mary Beth said around the cost of education preschool, just sharing some data that's available, which indicates, when you all look at it, that the cost of full day preschool in Renton right now, I just learned, is about $10,000 per year. That's the average cost, and that is for a 9-month program, not a full year 12-month program, a 9-month program. And then when you are talking about Montessori preschool, you are looking at a family spending 12 to 15,000 a year. So the school, our Renton school, the Business Academy in Renton is going to be a 3-classroom school. When in full operation, we are going to have 60 students in that school. And when you look at that, what Business Academy, what business, we are investing in Renton. We are talking about, on the average, $10,000 per student, because our program is tuition free. We are going to provide meals for them, 3 meals a day with snacks in between. We are going to hire the best educators that we can find, as well as support the hiring of educators from within the city itself. At the moment, just to give you an update in terms of what we are doing to the North Highlands Community Center, we are upgrading the place, putting finishes that will make it a well-functioning, safe, and modern space. Every facility that we put together as a business academy, they are all valuable community assets, and we maintain them to increase not just their life expectancy, but also to comply with and exceed all the state mandated standards. That is what we are doing right now. We are hoping that the work, for some of you who might drive past that place, we are hoping that the place will be ready we'll finish construction May of this year, and then we will apply for licensing by DCYF, that's the State Department for Children, Youth and Families. It is after we get that license that the lottery Mary Beth Scott have talked about comes in. And we will open our doors to welcome all you council members to visit when we finish construction. So we are investing a lot in making that space very safe and modern for our children in Renton to come in. We are really excited, as you can hear Mary Beth talk about just having those children come in. There are 60 of them, and that is part of what we are doing in the community.
Thank you all for the presentation. I see we have a couple hands raised, so I want to make sure we get to the questions or comments we have from our council members. The first I see is Councilmember O'Halloran. Go ahead, and then we'll have Councilmember Albertson and Councilmember Rivera after that.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions, but I'll just I'll go with just one. I'll take my turns. So transportation, what's the plan to get the kids there?
Scott, you want to take the transportation question?
It's a good question. At this stage, we are not providing transportation for any of our schools. It's something we've thought a lot about, and long term we may revisit that decision. It turns out that in terms of logistics, complexity, cost, and risk, transportation is maybe as complex as opening and running a preschool. And so at this stage, we're squarely focused on education and providing great curriculum to kids. We're designing these schools in a way that we want to make sure that the demand is strong enough in about a 2-mile radius of a location, so that families, and we're also looking at public transportation to make sure if families don't have a way of driving themselves, they can get to our facility. But we would love to provide transportation to every child, but today we just don't feel that we're at a stage we can do that.
All right, Councilmember Albertson.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember O'Halloran, for helping me scratch one of my questions off the list. I don't know how many people remember the name of the preschool they went to, but Columbus Children's College is the preschool I went to. I will never forget it. It was one of the best things, that I've always known. it helped me. I actually skipped kindergarten because I was too prepared for kindergarten. So I was really glad to see this, and I think it's a really great thing. My question is, when the time comes, so as many people know about this as possible, what's the promotional plan? And if, like you said, hey, if you know anybody to spread the word, blah blah blah. What promotional material will we have access to? How can we help to make sure that everybody who needs to know will know? And then tied into that, I'm curious about the lottery process, and when people will need to know, and that timeline and all that sort of thing, the complexity of that, I guess.
Yes, we will still keep sharing information with the city. We are connecting with different community organizations within Renton. We are going to use social media to reach out. And then we have a very robust, strong family and community engagement team. Our goal is not necessarily to advertise in a way that attracts everybody from all corners. So our preference is to reach out, like Scott mentioned, that we try to locate our schools within places where 2-mile radius, there's a strong demand, a strong need. So what we do usually is to go out to the laundromat, to the grocery stores, to everywhere. We hand out leaflets, and that's what our team does. Mary Beth, as she's talking about recruiting educators, that is also part of what they do. Reach out to the community around the school, neighborhood, and we undertake to connect with different bodies and share out a lot of information prior to the lottery period.
But I think part of our intention is to ask our partners, where should we look to find the families that are most in need? It's super easy for Jeff Bezos to put out an Instagram post and a whole bunch of people will know there's a school in Renton, but that's the wrong approach. What we've done so far is a very low-tech approach. As Emmanuel said, we print out posters in English and Spanish, at least we did for the first several schools, and we asked our partners, where are the families? Where should we go? Where do they shop? Where's the Medi Center that families in this immediate community are using, and we go there. So as we approach the time to recruit students and families, we'll be asking our partners, we'll be asking the city of Renton, we'll be asking the community organizations that we have met so far, hey, where should we go? We also, because we have spent quite a bit of time speaking with other providers, I think we'll probably end up talking with them, because there are programs that, for instance, Head Start programs that may be fully subscribed, or they have people applying to their programs that don't qualify. They make too much money, or that sort of thing. So we may be able to help bridge the gap for some of those families in those programs. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, as I think about some of the families that would need to, should know about this, I just hate for, some people to kind of slide through the cracks because of maybe their lack of access to a medium or whatever that, you think you got it covered. I mean, I like your plan there, but overall, I wanted to get a better sense of how that was being done. So fair enough. And I like the order, by the way, of your, homeless foster care and all that kind of stuff. So I like that.
Thank you. All right. Councilmember Rivera, and then we'll go to Councilmember Perez.
And thank you so much, Council President McIrvin. Please forgive me, I've lost my voice, but I do have a couple of questions. Emmanuel spoke to the amazing benefits and opportunities for the teachers, and I have a question: if your employees and teachers will be unionized, or are they unionized at your schools? That's my first question. And then my second question is, are you going to be friendly and work with also equally and equitably LGBTQ families and children of LGBTQ families as well. And I think I may have missed this question, but how many students will be in the classroom in Renton? Those are my 3 questions.
Yeah, let me take the simplest one. 60 students when we are in full operation. So 3 classrooms, and the ratio is, we don't have more than 20 students per class. Ratio of a lead teacher in a classroom and 2 assistant teachers. So always. And then, yes, we non-discriminatory in everything, in every aspect of our work. That means children from every family. That is key, that is critical. So it's an umbrella that covers everyone. Then our teachers are not unionized at this point.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Perez.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing Renton. Thank you for working with us. Thank you for your presentation. I'm very excited about this. I am Mexican, and Spanish is my first language. And I'm a little bit concerned about the families that live around that area specifically. A lot of them are Hispanic community. But we have the tendency to miss these opportunities because sometimes having posters in Spanish is not enough for us to know, and my question will be, are we working with other organizations like Centro Rendu or the English language learners facilitators in the Renton School District, who are the ones that are very familiar with these families as well? Because my fear is the same of Councilmember Albertson, that some of these families will miss the opportunity just because the way we receive information is not the same way that other communities do. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to work with you. I think in Renton, we're very lucky to have these kind of programs.
Councilmember Perez, thank you so much. What you just pointed out, and the community-based organizations you just mentioned, that is critical for us. That is why we don't walk into a community and think that we know it all. We want to find a partner who can direct us, who can lead us, who can guide us, with whom we can collaborate, a real partner to work hand in hand throughout the entire process. So I am so grateful for all these organizations you've mentioned. And as we move forward, we'll definitely come back to you, just like we'll come back to other organizations to find out how do we connect with these families. I know that Maribeth is taking copious notes right now, trying to make sure that all that is recorded for us, because that is exactly what we are looking for, how to connect with those families and those children. So we will be doing more and more of that, yes.
All right, we've got it. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask Councilmember Perez, do you have any guidance? How should we find those families, or how should we best communicate to families that are primarily Spanish speaking in the community?
I think it's very important that now that you're recruiting teachers, that you recruit a facilitator that speaks Spanish and that knows the community. Obviously, it's better if you said that you wanted to include a diverse population in your teachers and people that look like us. So people that speak language, it doesn't have to be your first language, just that able to communicate with the communities. We are very lucky here to have Centro Rendu that works very close with families, but also every single school, especially elementary schools in Renton, they have the English language learners, facilitators that very close to families that have children around the area. And obviously churches. Churches are a place that, especially the Spanish-speaking population, we trust, and this when we congregate. And if you want to reach to me, I'm more than happy to send you names of people that I know in the city that are community leaders for the Hispanic community, specifically in Renton.
I appreciate that.
I think we will follow up. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call on Councilmember Vaughn, and then we'll go back to Councilmember O'Halloran and Albertson.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you so much, Scott, Emmanuel, and Mary Beth for your presentation. Very much appreciated getting to know more about the Academy. But I want to piggyback on Councilmember Rivera's question as far as unionizations of teachers. Is that in the pipeline? Is there a timeline of as far as the sustainability of the programs? Because as we're looking at a 15-year partnership with the Academy, can you shed some light to that?
I don't know that we can. That's not something that's in the works right now. That may change over time, but I don't know enough to even be dangerous.
All right, Councilmember O'Halloran. Oh.
Yes, I actually have two questions, but I'll just take my turn and just ask the one. So one of the resources you can use is right down the road from where you're going to be at the Sunset Multi-Service Center, which is the hub of that community now for engaging in all things health, mental health, job, dietary, how to cook a healthy meal at home. They are very, very tapped into that community, right? And they're probably within a half a mile of where you are. It's the Sunset Multi-Service Center. And then I'll wait to ask my next question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Albertson.
All right, I'll make this quick. So not meaning to be greedy or anything like that, but kind of looking at the long game, because you do have this 2 mile or radius that, for this particular school, what are the opportunities as you kind of scale? Let's say it's hugely successful for Renton to get another Bezos Academy in another part of town and that sort of thing, to kind of pull in some other individuals.
Councilmember Albertson, I mean, this is a great thing you've just said now, and I mean, if you have suggestions, the way our program works, we are looking for partners who have the space that we can convert into a school. So if you have suggestions, maybe in your area or anything like that, and I think Scott was going to talk about our program, what our plans are for expansion. At the moment, Scott, you want to take that on? You want to talk about it?
Sure. At a high level, I think we'll end up developing between 20 and 30 schools in Washington State. And so you can imagine they'll be distributed not only in the Puget Sound region, but elsewhere. But I think, ideally, we will find at least one more site in Renton. And the team from the city of Renton has been great in terms of providing a great overview of the community and the layout. Mark Santos Johnson, I see his name on the call. He personally drove me around the community to help orient me early on, which was really useful. Connected me with a number of different organizations to have an early look at what's possible. We've looked at many properties in the area, and so far we haven't found too many that really fit the bill in terms of when we look at a facility, we're looking through a couple different lenses. The first lens is, can we create a safe, beautiful space for kids? The second is, can we get it licensed through DCYF? And if we evaluate the space and the answer is yes, then we have to move on. And so we are certainly interested in continuing to look in Renton, whether that means finding a building that we can retrofit, basically make leasehold improvements to and create another Bezos Academy. Or we've also started an exploration around what would it look like if we found a piece of land that we could bring in a modular school. And that's something we're open to as well. We have had, we've started that conversation. We sort of paused it but we're happy to dust off that playbook and talk about it again. So if this group believes there's enough demand in Renton, we're ready to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Great question, Councilmember Albertson. That might have been one I was saving to ask at the end, so we'll check that one off the list for me. Councilmember Rivera, and feel free if you have more than one. I don't want you to strain your voice.
Just the one, actually prompted by Councilmember Albertson. Why was this location chosen?
Well, from my perspective, there were a couple things that we're trying to solve for. I already mentioned that we have to believe that we can create a space that's going to be great for kids and teachers, and we have to believe it will be licensable. And that space, there were already classroom-like rooms in place. There's a beautiful playground next door. There's parking. There are a lot of the things that we need to set up a school. It also happened to be in the Sunset Highlands area, where the data tells us within a couple miles there are a lot of kids that can use more services like we're offering. So that was a big part of it. It was also one of the first. Renton was one of the first communities that we looked at, and we wanted to make sure for our first several partners that we aligned with organizations that we thought were on very solid footing. And so I was much more excited about partnering with a city government rather than, say, private individual. It's just easier for us to get our heads around what does a 15-year long agreement look like, and do we think that the other party is going to be in business or solvent at the end of that 15-year term. The city of Renton is certainly going to be around much longer than that. And so that was kind of the combination of factors that we were looking at.
Thank you. Councilmember Halloran, you are the last hand I see raised, and we're running out of time, so I would say fire away with any remaining questions you have. Oh, we might be circling back to Councilmember Rivera again.
I just well, in the interest of time, I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
My only other question was what data did you pull from? Where's your data source?
Well, before we got started, we commissioned a study with an organization called Washington STEM, and they pulled together census data, DCYF childcare and early learning data. Essentially, we were just trying to triangulate where are the kids that are living in low-income situations. In those same zip codes, do those kids have access to subsidized programs like Head Start and other high-quality programs that are somewhat affordable? And if the answer is there's a big gap between the number of kids and the number of seats in programs, then we're going to dig in a little more. And so what we ended up with is this heat map of the state of Washington, and the areas that glowed bright red were those areas with the biggest gap. And so, the sad thing is, in Western Washington, any direction you point, there's a red zone, and Renton has some red zones, and so we wanted to start close to home. We're based in Seattle, and so our first school was in Des Moines. We immediately looked at the data and said, okay, if you look at Renton, Kent, Auburn. If you look at, Burien, Tukwila, Tacoma, all of these places have thousands of children that are falling between the cracks. And we know that we're not going to solve the problem, but we feel like these are all places where we could plug in and start making a difference right away.
Thank you so much for answering all of my questions so well. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all. It looks like we are all out of hands at this point. Great questions from everyone. Really do appreciate the conversation and appreciate you all so much for being here. I think all of my questions essentially got answered. Mary Jane, you started it right off. I was going to ask how have we partnered with the school district on this to make sure that that we shoehorn this and it fits so well, especially being right next door to Meadowcrest and whatnot. And certainly hope that as we and Councilmember Albertson, the question regarding future expansion, the others have chimed in. be curious to know those census tracts. And then also, I think this is a good opportunity to continue to partner with the school district on. The final comment I want to share, just as a note before we adjourn, is that the price tag, Emmanuel, that you laid out really resonated. As a parent who's had 2 children who've gone through Montessori school, and I acknowledge the privilege I've had to be able to afford that education for them. I'm so happy to be able to bring this to more students, and it's very clear that there is a huge unmet need. So we thank you for coming to Renton and sharing this information with us today. Last chance for any questions.
No, may I say, Council President and Council members, if you have any additional questions or resources you'd like us to relay to the Bezos group, they're still working. This is an interdepartmental support effort, and I thank all my colleagues for supporting this because we know this is a priority to you and to the mayor. Please let us know. We'd be happy to relay that or connect you further. But yes, thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you, Mary Jane. And thank you, Emmanuel, Scott, and Mary Beth. And we will go ahead and adjourn and reconvene as a full council at 7 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.